Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. Oh, I got a little halo there, but this is what it used to look like when we published it. I'm cranking out the archives here. This is issue 2, 2021. Let's see how big this issue was. This was 164 pages. Let's see what I was doing. Well, I was thinking Olympics. It's me with my 1980 poster, and it was I guess it was that time of year when I did this one, issue 2, so that would have been February, and Lake Placid, fond memories, the gold medal, U.S. team hockey. It was talk about a great day for America, man, unbelievable. I don't know where you were in 1980, but I remember where I was. I was a junior in prep school, and actually I played on the Olympic rink right before. About 2 weeks before the Olympics started, and went up with Princeton Day School. I went to the Petty School in New Jersey, and we drove up and we played Lake Placid High School on Friday night, and then we played the Northwood School, which is a top prep school hockey program in the country, on Saturday, and then drove back down. And It was an amazing experience. But Always like holding the magazine in the hand. I went digital August of 2021. That was the last issue I printed, and I've been 100% digital. We still have a print on demand service, but anyway, we had just under 49 million people hit our website last year consuming content. So thank you to everybody out there that finds us. We appreciate you. You're all gold in my eyes, and I really appreciate it. And making the transition from print face to face to digital, and I'm not looking back. It's just been an amazing, amazing ride, and I couldn't have done it without you. So it's been a TGIF today. It's 5 o'clock here on the East Coast in the ATL. Sun's still out, and when I'm done, I'm going to go out and do about a 5 mile trek out on the asphalt with my sneakers, and then get ready for some dinner and get ready for the weekend. Working on my house. I got to meet the architect and the sod guy in the morning and make sure we're on the same plan so we can get the landscaping started. I got to pour my driveway and install a fence, and the rest of it's a Lego set in the interior of the house. Got all the toilets, the doors are installed. I got to put hardware in, the shelving, the painting's done, and now it's just all the foo-foo stuff to make it look like a real house inside. So very, very exciting, and it's been as my first ground up. It's been an experience, and my wife and I are still married. We thought we were gonna rip off each other's heads, but I just keep my mouth shut. Hey, what? I'm with you on the color. I'm with you on everything. So we're still married, and it. It's been fun. She did a great job. She designed it, and it was great. And we look forward to building some more homes. I come from a construction family, so it hit home, and it was a lot of fun. It's amazing that in August we broke ground, and now this house is finished. So, with that said, I saved the best for last. His name is, as you can see on your screen, he's Brian Ruffner, and he's the founder and CEO of NoLIMIT Performance. And basically, he's a business coach for in the AEC sector, and he helps you run your business more efficiently, make it to get that chemistry with the people that you work with, your coworkers, etc. And Brian, say hello to our listeners out there in the great state of Arizona, just north of the Valley of the Sun. Say hello to our listeners out there at Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hey, everybody in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, and thank you, David, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And hey, listen, Brian's publicist sent me a PR piece, and I was like, "Oh, I don't think I've had a business coach, or someone like him." And he's playing in our sector. Said, "Hey, let's bring him on here, man." And listen, the day you stop learning something is the day you should go do something else. So uh, here, Brian's here to tell us his story and give us some pointers, and then we'll close the episode out. So, Brian, the way we're going to do this, we're going to do it in 3 parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, went to school, kids, sports, etc., how you ended up where you are today. Then we'll talk about lessons learned of the roller coaster that we've all been on over the last 5 years or so, and then any trends that you see in our sector, and then you'll leave your contact info, a positive thought or phrase, and then complete the episode. So, with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Thank you, David.
Absolutely.
Well, I grew up in the Pacific Northwest. Um, Went to high school, large high school, 6A high school in Tacoma, Washington. Um, Grew up with a single mom and wanted to go to college. And mom told me early on, hey, listen, I'm not going to have any money to send you to college. If you're going to go, you got to go on a scholarship. And so I took that challenge on and came out of high school with a basketball scholarship to Gonzaga. And
Oh, wow.
my
Jags.
original thought was is that I was going to go there, get a political science degree, and become a lawyer and go to law school there. And at the 12th hour, I decided to go to a smaller school down in Oregon called Warner Pacific University. And I still remember the recruiting pitch the guy said. He said, "Listen, you seem to like to shoot a lot." And I go, "Well, I am a pretty good offensive player." He says, "Listen, here's my philosophy. If you're shooting better than 50%, you're not shooting enough on my team." And I'm
Yeah.
like, and I think you could start as a freshman. So I ended up going there and um, decided to pursue education degree. So I got my bachelor's there. Also got a master's in education, and I thought I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. And realized real quick that that really wasn't what was for me, and I didn't want the all the bureaucracy of the schools. Loved working with kids, still work with kids to this day. I'm actually a president of a board of a small school, private Christian school, so still involved in working with kids, but not as a career. So I met a guy early on. That owned a construction company at a luncheon. And he got together with me and he said, "You know what? I think you're the guy that could help transform my company from a marketing and sales standpoint." So joined him in my 20s and spent the majority of my career in the construction world. The early part was with general contractors. And then I transitioned to some some of the largest companies in the nation in electrical, mechanical, plumbing, and the last 15 years is has been pretty much in that area, commercial. Um, I did take a little stint and go play basketball in Australia after I finished college and also it was kind of a weird deal, but I've always been really interested in the mental side of sports, right? And anybody that's played sports realizes that that's a big part of any sport, right? And so I pursued that. It led me to pursue my PhD in something called performance psychology, which is from Grand Canyon University in Arizona. That is actually two sides where it's sports psychology, but it's also applying those same principles to the business world. And so before I broke out on my own with my company, NoLIMIT Performance, I spent 7.5 years as the director of sales for Comfort Systems USA, which is one of the largest mechanical contractors in the nation, publicly traded, and rose very quickly, became the number one sales leader in the company. And basically, how that happened was, as I started out with a very small team that had an 87% turnover rate, um, low OI, and was able to more than, 20x that and increase the bottom line by another 150%. So everybody wanted to wonder, find out how the heck did I do that, right? And really it was applying those principles of performance psychology to that world. And I've been doing it for, 30 years. So that's how but I really honed it as I've gotten older and then decided that um, I would go out on my own and start helping others in the commercial construction world to do the same.
I always like talking to athletes, just because they understand the concept of winning and losing, and that there's no I in team, even though you can still have an individual player and play on a team sport. I was talking to another lady. She was a she played lacrosse in high school. She was a swimmer and a lacrosse player. Anyway, she gave me her coach. She said. Uh, you miss all the shots that you don't take. And I said, "Oh, I love that quote. I use that all the time." And listen, you can take more shots, but my thing is your shooting percentage. If you don't sink it or if you don't put it in the net, it's great that you're taking it, but you really need to have that percentage of on target, and all that is just practice, muscle memory. But talking to business people that were on the athletic field or in the pool or on the hardwood court, and taking that when you go out to the real world and the business world, like at Comfort Systems, which I'm very familiar with, um, they they're ready for battle. They're bad and hardened. They've got the calluses, and they understand what winning feels like, and they understand what not getting the W is. And I don't even use losing in my verbiage. You either win or you learn. And if you're not making mistakes out there, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. Yeah, you got to push harder, because the only way you're going to get improved is if you make mistakes and learn from them. And uh, I coached my kid all through when he was growing up. I never pushed him into anything, and all the time I was just like, look, you're gonna win some, you're gonna learn. You got to take them and just keep moving forward. Don't look back, because the only thing back there is the scoreboard. And if you want to look and remember what the score was, fine. But that scoreboard's not going to change. It's in the history books. So take what you learn from the game, but put your blinders on and keep moving forward with momentum, and play with class and play with professionalism. And I don't care if you're a seventh grader, on the rec team, or a senior. Everybody thinks they're going to play professional. Look, I was going to play professional hockey. That's what I wanted to do, but I didn't even pick up a lacrosse stick until I was a sophomore in prep school, and I ended up being a better lacrosse player than I was a hockey player. And you being a basketball player, listen. Lacrosse is like we run all the plays that the basketball players do. Pick and roll, back door. I can go down the list, and you got to take the shot when you have it, and hopefully it goes in. So I didn't know, like I said, I love talking about to athletic people, because they just understand that concept of
Well, I'll tell you a little story that will resonate with you. So, one of the things that you said about failure, that's one of the things that I'm a big believer of as well, because what I tell people is like, look, you can install any belief in your mind you want. It's up to you. And I just matter of fact about it. You decide if that's the best belief for you, that I suck, and I can't do it, then go ahead and do that, right? But
yeah.
I say, let's just say that you could do this. What if there was no failure? There was only feedback. You just get feedback and you decide, okay, well, now I need to course correct and do something different, right? So I got into tennis after college, and that's where I really started diving deep into the mental side of things. Um, I was probably about 200th in the United States at the time, and I was very, very fortunate. I've had some really great mentors. I had a chance to work with Tony Robbins in my 20s, and the grandfather of all performance psychology, which is a guy named Dr. James Lohr, who was one of the first guys to publicly come out, where in the old days, athletes didn't want anybody to know they had a mental coach. So they felt like that made them weak, right? He was one of the first guys to come out, and I got a chance to work with him quite a bit and work under him. Well, anyway, so started pursuing all this mental side of things, right? And I got to the point where I said, you know what? I think I really got a system that'll work, and there's only one way to figure it out. Go back out and play national tournaments, and let's see what happens. And I finished the year at number 5 in the nation, and it really proved the concept. So I look at, you could make a statement that sports, professional level sports, it's at least 80% mental, you know. I mean, if you look at the top 100 golfers, the difference between number one and number 100 is an average of one stroke. But the difference in compensation between one and 100 is
Yeah,
100 times, right?
yeah,
So
exactly.
I look at the same thing in business, and I don't think people really look at it that way. Like, well, and I work a lot with sales teams. I work with ops too. I mean, I ran GCs and built them and things like that. But sales teams especially, right? Because it's a lot like sports, right? You're a sales professional. You're winning and losing. There is no in between. You know, trying hard doesn't help, right? So what do you think is the mental side of being on the sales side of construction, right? Well, it's the same. Most of the people I talk to say, well, when I think about it, probably is maybe at least 80%. Especially on the sales side, people that are bringing the work in the door, they take a lot of no's, right? They have to be emotionally intelligent. They have to have all those kinds of things, right? And the market has not gotten easier. The talent war is huge for most companies, right? So how do you attract, how do you vet, how do you get those kind of A players on your team? And then how do you take them from where they're at so that they never stop growing? And the reality is if you help those employees, those A players get better, they will help your company get bigger. It's a simple formula, but very few people do that.
Well, listen, I totally agree. I'm all about mindset and if don't surround yourself with negative people because
Oh,
they're just going to bring you
yeah.
down. It's like cancer in any organization. If they don't want to play in your sandbox, there's 8 billion people on the planet. You can find some people that want to play in your sandbox. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. But once again, uh, as a salesperson. It's a numbers game. The more no's you get, the more yeses you're going to get. You just don't know when you're going to get them. But statistically, the more no's that you do get, and no doesn't mean yes. That's just the first way that you didn't convince someone to do it. I mean, sometimes you might have to court a person for a couple of years and keep getting that no and no and no, but be professional. Don't be a pest. Don't be a nag. But giving that person value or some knowledge nuggets or trends that might be going in the industry. I mean, I'm just a little publisher. I go up against all the big guys. I'm a little guy, uh, but uh, I was with Nielsen and went out on my own in 2001, right after 9/11. Probably the worst time to go out into business.
Oh,
My my
oh,
my parents told me, don't do it, don't do it. You have an expense account there. You could retire, 401k, blah blah blah. And I said, nope. Uh, what happened was I was with a firm. We had 10 trade shows and eight magazines, and I they let me the year that I launched my construction magazine back in 1999, the year that my son was born. So I kind of treated the magazine like my kid. And that honeymoon lasted about 18 months. And then right after 9/11, they whacked about, I don't know, 50 or 60 magazines out of the portfolio. And my little construction book got the axe. And I was publishing another magazine, but my heart wasn't, in the POP arena. And that's point of purchase, kind of those fixtures and stuff that you see when you go up to the cash register, energy drinks, all those displays is what my magazine was on. But I was in construction. My family was in construction, and so I offered to buy the magazine. And they were like, David, we love you. What do you want? I'm like, look, my heart's here. You guys, this is a bean counter decision. And yeah, I'm going on the road. When I come back from Texas in a week, let me know. I'm going to see Radio Shack, a couple big brands, some people. When I come back, you make your decision. And they thought I was bluffing. I came back. I said, hey, you going to sell me the magazine? They said, no. I said, here's my resignation. I left December 17th, 2001. And in 2 months, I put my first issue out and I grew really quick. And listen, I've been on a roller coaster the whole time. I went through the internet bubble. You had the '08 crash, and then coming back, and then you have this debacle over the last 5 years, and I'm still standing today. I've been around for almost 25 years, and when I look back, if I didn't have a positive mindset. Uh, I wouldn't have made it. But I really, to be honest with you, I just looked like, I was always an underdog. I went to a small prep school. We only had 500 people in the school. There was 120 people probably 140 people in my graduating class. And when I went to school, I was, I, there was a big hockey program called the Hill School. I grew up outside of Philadelphia in a place called Pottstown. The Hill School was a top prep school hockey program. They wouldn't let me in. They wanted me to be a day student. I told my parents, I go, look, if I'm going to board, I'm not going to board at an old black guy school. I'm going to board at a co-ed school. And so I looked around and I found this place, Petty, that was in Central Jersey. My dad was from New York. My mom was from Philly. And it was kind of right in the middle. And they told my parents, hey, we're building the hockey program. Your kid's going to start as a freshman. He'll get recruited for college. We want him. And we'd love to have him here. And but all the schools that we played, they were much bigger than us. And anyway, I always went up, some of these high schools that we went up, they had 4,000 people. We're just a little 500 class school, but everybody's like, oh, the preppies are coming in. Well, guess what? The preppies have attitude, and we have a little chip on our shoulder because everybody was, thought they were going to beat up on us. And they have our slogan on our wall was, uh, talent, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That was the
Exactly
saying
right.
that was on our wall, and it set with me for the rest of my life. So I've always been an underdog. So when I went out, I took more no's, and and like I said, I kind of treat business totally as like an athlete. Every day I get up, you got to get up, you got to have a positive mindset, you got to get rest, and you got to give it your all. As long as you leave it all out on the field, when you get home at night and you put your face in the mirror and you can look at yourself, and you can say, "Hey, man, I did the best I could, and I know I'm not going to win them all." I've only been on one undefeated team, and we were 21-0. I played in the AAA men's league here in Atlanta, and in the semifinal game, I blew my ACL out, and it was the year my son was born, and my wife's like, "Well, you're not going to play in the championship game." I'm like, "Babe, I have never been on an undefeated team. I'm going to raise the cup." So I went out there wild, but it's on video,
Oh, oh
and
my gosh.
oh yeah, and winning that, it was like I won the Stanley Cup, raising that cup. But then I got cut, and I had to go through rehab, 9 months to a year. So I had surgery in April, and in '99, and my wife thought, oh, he's not going to hit golf balls, he's not going to do this and that, and my son was born. But I worked really, really hard. I ended up on the top in Vail in Christmas, skiing at the top of the mountain with 8 months of hard work. And listen, ACLs normally a year to heal, but I worked my tail off to get back. And then 10 years later, I blew my other one out right before I got my black belt in Taekwondo. And I had to I did the rehab at the house because I already gone through it. But my leg wasn't getting straight. And I told my wife, I said, babe, I don't think my leg's getting straight. She's like, you're not young anymore. You're 50, whatever. Well, I don't know how I was in my early 50s. And she's like, you don't heal as well. So, uh, but I came back and I got back on the mat the following year and I went and got my black belt. And it was it's just like in Taekwondo, you never stop learning. You might get a black belt, you might be a first degree, second, and you keep learning and you keep practicing what you know and improve it and tweak it. And you have to do the same thing in business. You don't want to do it the wrong way. If you're going to practice, you got to make sure that you're practicing the correct, because like in tennis or in golf, if you practice with the wrong swing, it's a very, very tough thing to get rid of. But if you practice it correctly and you do it consistently every day, little improvements every day, it all adds up in the whole scheme of things. And uh, uh, I just look back and I played with a little chip on me. I was a chirper out there. I wasn't the biggest guy, but believe me, I was a rushing defenseman. So I was excellent on my skates, and I was very, very tough to make myself be swimming on the ice. So and the same thing with lacrosse. There's a lot of bigger boys than me out there, but I just kind of always had that underdog attitude, and winning was great, but I didn't care if it was a learning thing, and I went through there. But That's totally, mindset is everything in my opinion. Am I right?
It's something that's not really thought about a lot of times, and in commercial construction, you know, and they wonder why they're not getting the results they're getting, right? And that's the biggest part of it, right? So I would always approach things, it's a little bit of a Jedi mind trick, right? So as a leader, I would always approach it as, okay, my people are giving me about 25% just to do the bare minimum to keep their job, right? And what am I going to do to get them to voluntarily give me the other 75? And that's the big mover, right? So when you look at, I guess in a nutshell, what do I do? Well, I help people find a level that they never knew was possible, right? So you said, and I agree with that, right? You've got to give everything you've got, right? But most people have no idea what their ceiling is or their potential. They have no idea, right? And so being able to help somebody find a level that they never knew was possible. And then when you do that as a team, so I do a ton of team building. I've got a couple of guys on my team that are former special forces guys. One guy was a Green Beret, the other guy was a SEAL. And we do a lot of team building, a lot of leadership, coaching. That seems to be kind of a newer thing that's really taking fire with a lot of companies is we need to have a coaching philosophy. And part of it is because there's a lack of talent, they're moving people up quicker, right? So the millenniums love that because they get started, first job out of college. Hey, when can I become president, right?
That's how I was just gonna say it. They all think they're gonna be the president. You
Right.
gotta.
Do I get a raise next week, right? When's it going to happen? For
Yeah.
all you millennials, okay, I'm just kidding. It's not 100%. But the whole deal is that a lot of people, even in the field, you take a guy that's a field employee, and all of a sudden, hey, we need a new foreman. You're it. And they give him zero training on how to become a leader or a manager. And then they flounder, right? They have no idea. They're just winging it. And trial and error is not a very good teacher. It's a painful teacher. So doing a lot of that with high potentials, things like that with companies. Um, since I broke out on my own, the reception's been very, very positive for me, and you know, uh, it it really is that whole construction world is unfortunately full of a lot of mediocrity. And there's a lot of companies that want to move up. They're maybe doing light commercial, and I want to get into the big commercial. Okay, well, do you have the people that can do it, right? Do you have the skill set to go after that stuff? Can you get the confidence from the people that you can actually perform? All those kinds of things. So it's been a lot of fun for me, and I still do some work with sports. You talked about team, right? And a guy that was one of the coaches for the Arizona Cardinals, and in their locker room, who just became now an offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, but he in their locker room, they have only one sign, right? Team, right? And me. Which one is it? Are you going to go team or me? And at the professional level, that's huge. But it's the same thing in the commercial world as well, I mean, you can have a bunch of silos running around trying to make a job work out, or you can get people to work together as a team and get all the subs to work together as a team. And now you got something that really turns out.
Oh, I totally agree. I look at, I know I've met a lot of people over the years, and when I look at it, my son goes, "Hey, Dad, when can I come and work for you?" I said, "Well, you're gonna have to go get fired a couple times from a couple of people, and then you can come talk to me." And because you got to go out there and get your, get whacked a couple times.
Yeah, cut your teeth a little bit, right?
You got to have skin like leather, and and then you can come talk to me. And the funny thing was that my son, listen, I wanted him to follow my footsteps, and uh, he was a pretty good lacrosse player. And when it came, we put just like my parents. I was put on skis and skates as soon as I was out of diapers, and I wasn't a great skater, so I used to get this little thing called Hockey Digest. And I found this hockey school, and I told my parents, I said, "Look, this is where I want to go to camp in the summer." And it was up outside of Toronto, and I was young, and they were like, "You sure you want to go up there by yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to play professional hockey, but I have to skate. I have the hand skills on it, but I have to become a better skater." So I went up, and it was called the Hockey Ranch, and it was 4 hours of hockey and 4 hours of horseback. But you lived on the ranch, and it was about 45 minutes outside of Toronto. It was a place called Pickering, Ontario, and anyway, I went up there for every summer. I just had a blast. I grew up, we had horses and stables. My grandfather was in the cavalry. He was a combat engineer underneath Patton in World War II. He rebuilt all the bridges that the Allies had bombed. And my family's been in construction since 1888. It's like sixth
Wow,
generation. So as one of
that's
the
amazing.
grants, yeah, it's called Mayor Pollock Steel. You can look it up. They're still in, my cousins are running it. And but anyway, when in Pennsylvania, you get your license at 16. So back in the day when I got my license, all the grandsons, I'm sorry, all the females out there, I'm just telling you the way it was back then. If you were a grandson, you had to go work in the scrapyard. You had no choice if you wanted to get your driver's license. So that summer came, I had to go work for my Uncle Frank. He was my first superintendent, and he was one mean SOB. And if you weren't there at 6:55 in the morning, ready to go with your acetylene torch and your gloves and so forth, work started at 7. He was not going to be, nice and out. May rest in peace, Uncle Frank. I learned a lot from that. You know, you better early than late. Give it your all. Don't whine. And anyway, that's the way I was just brought up. Raise the flag in the morning, take the flag down, and respect it. And um,
Well, you think back about that time, David. Think about if it was today's HR, right back then.
oh no,
I can remember guys red-faced screaming, saying everything in the book at me, right? And basically, if you do your job today, you'll have another job tomorrow, right? That was the way it used to be, man. None of this, oh, we'll take you to HR, somebody be behind the building giving you some of this, right? If you don't get with it.
so one of these jobs that we were doing, that it was that we had to my grandfather inked this contract with a guy that was doing sandblasting for train cars. And we had to build the sandblasting and paint booths. So anyway, we had dug the railroad tracks, and I learned how to weld that summer, and we put the booths up. Anyway, my grandfather came in with the client, and my superintendent for that job, his name was Dominic. And it was myself, my two cousins, and then one of the guys from that was a senior guy. Anyway, Dominic goes, "Hey David, your grandfather's here, man. You got to go up on top of the building and undo the overhead crane." And I'm like, "Dominic, I'm not going up there. It's like 40 feet down on those. I don't even know if those welds are going to hold." And he's like, "David, your grandfather's here, dude. You're gonna have to have dinner with him later tonight. You got to go up." So I'm looking at my cousins. So I'm like, "Okay, I'm the youngest. I understand. We were all born in June. I was born on the end of the month. You guys are old. I'll go do it." So I went up. I still remember this. I went up, scared out of my wits. Went up, unhooked the crane, came back down. So that night at dinner, my grandfather, we would sit down meals, pray before you eat and all that stuff. Anyway, he goes, "Hey, I want you to know, was it scary going up there and doing that crane?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I was scared to death." He goes, "Yeah, when you're scared, it makes you do things that you don't think you can do." And but I had complete faith that you were going to get it done. I was worried about your welds too, but I had confidence in you. And I said, "Yeah, I did it. I did it because you were there." He goes, "You should, I didn't have to be there for you to do it. You could have done it. You just had to think. You had to tell your mind that you could do it, and that you have to face fear on and blow through it." And I remember that conversation for the rest of my life. And it kind of just settled with me. And um, You know what's funny is in all the coaching that I did while my son was in there, and after he, I continued to coach, and sometimes I would in the fall I'd coach seventh graders or eighth graders, and I would tell the parents, I go, look, I got no skin in this game. I got no kid on the team. You hired me to win games. This is the elite squad. My job's to make sure that we win games. But I'm going to run a college, professional practice for your son. So when he gets up to the high school ranks where the best players play, this is the rec league. Everybody plays, but this is the select team. We're out here to win. But my job is to make sure that they're prepared when they get up to the high school rank and the college ranks. Because guess what? When they get up there, he might be a midfielder or attackman, uh, and you get to the practice, and the coach says, "Hey, put a deep hole in your hand," and you're looking like, "Hey, I'm a scorer." No, you're a deep hole. So I always told my son, "Look, make sure you can play with all of the sticks." Because I will play, I would love to have a team of guys that could do everything. You need a couple specialists here and there to get stuff done, but the more diverse you are and the more that you know, the better off I think that you're going to be. And but the parents, they didn't understand. But I said, look, you look at this team in the beginning of the year and you look at it at the end of the season, and you just take a little video of how the practices are on, how they look at the end, and you will see a well-oiled machine. Are we going to win them all? No. Are we going to lose them all? Heck no. Are we going to be competitive? You bet. Are we going to have fun? That's a necessity. You gotta like what you're doing. You gotta have fun. And I barked. I barked at people, but I never profanity, and none of that stuff. And these days, you can't touch anybody. You can't get in anybody's face. I mean, it's just, but back in the day, the way that I was, hey, everything was
Coaches
freewheeling.
throwing garbage cans at you, doing all kinds of crazy
Oh,
stuff,
yeah,
man.
listen, you got to get your guys going. So, what was funny was,
So,
go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, the one thing I didn't tell you is, a little bit about my family. You mentioned yours, and
Mhm.
so I've been blessed. I have an amazing wife named Debbie, and we have six adult kids,
Oh,
but
wow.
four of them played, and then 11 grandkids, and four of them played college sports, two soccer and two baseball. So my wife and I have spent a lot of time watching a lot of sports over the years,
And
man.
and you've seen a lot of good parents and a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
helicopter parents, right?
But it was kind of cool because one of my sons has kind of fallen in the construction footsteps, and he he is an entrepreneur, and he's running a very successful roofing business called Three River Roofing in Bend, Oregon, if there's anybody there, right? And I was just really proud of him to be able to do that, right? And in his early days, he worked for me um, when I was running a general contractor, right? Organization, and he learned a lot. Then he started to go to college for you know um, construction engineering, right? And realized college wasn't for him. So he dropped out in his junior year, and um, I said, look, if you're not going to get good grades, you're coming home. I'm coming to pick you up. We're going out, and you're getting a job right now. I know enough people who are going to drive around town, and you're going to go in and introduce yourself to somebody until you get a job. And that's the way we did it, right?
Yeah.
But he's really done a great job of starting this company, which is kind of cool to see your kids go in your footsteps, right? And follow in the trade.
Oh yeah. My son, he I took him out. We won the first national championship for lacrosse in 60 years of playing lacrosse out of DU. We won it in 2015. We beat Maryland in the finals, and we had gone up for the national championship game for the previous 2 years, and they lost. Anyway, they had a great team that year. They won. My parents, they called me. Hey, they got a good team. We're gonna fly you up for the game, and they ended up getting the championship. So I went out for alumni that October in 15. I took them out there and showed them the campus, showed them my fraternity, being what it's like to be a collegiate athlete, at the D1 level. And on Sunday, they had the top 150 15-year-old prospects at this clinic that the coaching staff was running. And do you Coach Tierney, he'll be a Hall of Famer coach. I don't know, 8 or 9 national championships, and he never even played lacrosse. He was a basketball guy, I think. And anyway, he's like, oh, I'm going to play D1. I'm going to play. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that lasted for a little while, but he didn't have the grades. He didn't like going to school. He was always working with his hands. He was flipping cars, flipping motorcycles, and so his senior year, I told that we had an appointment with the school. We went in there, and I said, look, my son. You have a shop class. I want him to go into the shop class. He's not interested in history. He's not interested in English. He's not interested in any of that stuff. He just wants to work with his hands. If there's one kid out of 3,500 people here that go here, this is the one person who won the shop class. No, we can't put him there. He doesn't have the mathematics skills. So you know what I did? We yanked him out of school. We homeschooled him. Well, he did online learning at the Faith Academy, but he had to work. So he was waitering. He worked in the garage. He did all this stuff, and he wanted to be an auto mechanic. I said, if you don't have your own shop, you're not going to make the big bucks. The dealer's going to make all the money. So then he was going to be a motorcycle tech. I said, well, you got to have your own shop, and you got to do it someplace warm where they ride all year, like Arizona. And so we found this place called AIM, Aviation Institute of Maintenance. They have about 20 campuses around. It's all for aircraft. They teach us sheet metal, welding, woodworking, avionics, everything has to do with the jet engine. So anyway, it was a 2-year program, and he got out. He got hired by Delta, and his first day down at Delta, and they were paying him peanuts. And a recruiter called him from Boeing and said, "Hey, we're looking for people for the Charleston, South Carolina plant. They need about 9,000 people. We're looking for, and you're getting your A&P license, and we're going to pay you 5 or 6 times what Delta's going to pay." So he called
Oh.
me. So he goes, "Dad, what should I do?" I go, "Well, what did your boss say?" He said, "My boss told me to get the hell out of here." So so he came
Five
home.
times? I mean, that's not a tough decision, man.
Well, but he didn't know, he never lived away from home. And
Oh,
my wife, when they drove over to Charleston, he did a FaceTime with this guy, had a room, he got his room. And then the first year he was a contractor play. He worked in the plant. He was working on 787s. That's a $350 million airplane. And then opportunity came up where for a flight specialist where you're out on the tarmac. And so he beat out all these people with tenure. He was only 22 years old, right, fresh out of basically, college with, or skilled labor. Anyway, they picked him. And then this year, last year, midway through, Boeing had some bad PR, and I said, "Look, Boeing's been great for you. I think that you should go and look for another job." And you have job security. He had about 5 job offers. He's down in Dallas now at FlexJet and loving it, and but I told him he first came home and he worked for a small regional center here. And I told him, I said, you should take the job down in Dallas, not this one. But he wanted to come home. And in 2 months, he hated it and he wanted to quit. I said, look, you're not going to quit until you have another job. Why don't you call FlexJet up? Not everybody has their A&P license. Why don't you go to call them up? I guarantee that job's still there. He goes, no, no, I'm sure it's gone. Just call and make the phone call. So he made the phone call. He goes, Dad, I can believe it, but that job's still over, and they gave it to me. So once again, they went down, got the job, came back. So I had him on my podcast. And why was it Boeing? Anyway, I thought I was going to hear it like 20 years from now. But he said, you know what, Dad? If you weren't hard on me, like I was Sergeant Carter with him, I just was. It was like good cop, bad cop with my wife. But he said, Dad, on the podcast, I was blown away. He said, Dad, if you weren't, and you and Mom were not as hard as on me when I was growing up, I would have never gotten that job. And I was just, I wasn't in tears, but I was like, wow, that really hit home. And so I knew I did it right. I mean, my job as a father is just to make sure, hey, when the little chick's ready to get out of the nest, you got to make sure it can fly. It's got some thick skin and it can handle what's out there because it's vicious out there in the business world. I don't care. I use that word in a positive and a negative way, and but you got to be prepared because not everything's going to go away. You're not going to like all your bosses. Not everybody's going to like you, and you're going to hear a lot of back talk behind your back. Very few people will face you, and but it was really cool to hear that happen, and but it was an amazing, amazing thing because when he was like 15, I didn't know what he was going to do. I had to drag him out of his bed in the morning to, make sure he was there. The high school started at 7 o'clock in the morning. But as soon as he got into the aviation and started learning, it was like a completely different person because he was doing what he liked. And he had a positive attitude and he was learning every day. And it was just amazing. It was like amazing transformation. I never saw it. And I works 5 at night to 5 in the morning, 4 days on, 3 days off, then 3 days on, 4 days. That's his schedule. And he was a night owl, and I didn't care. But uh, some of the videos he sends me and went on. He's working on $20 million Challenger jets, and I'm just blown away. And uh,
A lot of employers don't realize that if they would kind of take that story, right? As soon as your son found that thing that he really loved, right, that motivated him, all of a sudden he's a different guy, right? And so I do a number of things depending on what companies need, but one of the things um, is I use a lot of assessments with depending on what they're trying to do, and one of them is for motivations, right? And you do this with your employees. Let's take, you've got a division, some sort, right? Um, and you have that, and now you figure out what are their top motivators, right? So let's say they're doing a job, like a lot of guys, project managers, they get burned out, right? It's very tough. They put a lot of hours in. And if you could look at what are some of the things that really juice them, doesn't mean you completely change them. Sometimes you can put them in a different seat on the bus and it works. But let's say you need them there. But just adding a few things where they get a few opportunities to do the thing that really juices them is all that you need. And then they're not leaving and going elsewhere. So that story with your son is what all employers should be trying to do is how can we figure out what we need to do to help these people find their best for
oh,
us.
yeah. Now, yeah, like I said, I was blown away. Like I said, I didn't think I was going to hear it, but I knew because I told him I didn't want to say I was right. You should have listened to me and taken that job. I'm just telling you, down the road, you're going to say that to me. And then he just did it out of the blue on the podcast, and I had him on there because I've gotten on this kick about skilled labor because in the construction industry, we need project managers, we need welders, we need electricians. Who's going to build all this stuff? Who's going to build all the robots that the AI is going to
Exactly.
run? So I kind of just I put a student newsletter in a thing called Construct EDU in my magazine, and I just tell people, look, if you know someone that's between fifth and eighth grade, send them this thing. If they never thought about construction or being an electrician or a plumber, these people make really good money. They can be entrepreneurs. You can own your own business unless you want to work for someone else. It doesn't matter. You're still going to be doing, and you like working with your hands. You got to get to them in that fifth to eighth grade because once they get into high school and they start getting blinded by, oh, I want to go to Florida State because they have this cool student union with the pool and all this stuff. And they get and then they come out and they get a piece of paper that's not worth the paper it's even printed on.
And the thing is, what people don't realize, I don't know that I would recommend unless you're like a engineer, doctor, or something like that to go to college. Because here's the thing: it used to take 25 years to double the knowledge base. Now it's doubling every few months. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. We have all the knowledge with AI and everything. We can look up. I mean, people want to know how to do something, they get on YouTube and you find 50 people that show you how to do it within, 3 minutes. So you're absolutely right, is that everything's obsolete that you're learning so quickly. So really, if you want to fast track a career, going into the trades, learning that, you doesn't mean like, let's say you become an electrician. Doesn't mean you're going to spend 40 years being an electrician because every one of these companies are looking for young talent that have a desire to move up the chain. And there's never been a time in history where somebody could move up quicker to high paying, jobs, higher paying jobs within an organization than now. So, yeah, any young person I say recommend that. That is the quickest route to becoming an executive in a construction company is learn the trade, spend a couple years there and show some interest and they will take you the rest of the way.
Yeah, I used to tell him, I was like, Brody, what do you think? You're going to come into the my publishing company? You're going to become the president? If you're going to a general contractor, you never slung a sledgehammer. You think that you're going to go in there and run the company? You got to learn everything that you need to know. So when you do get up there, you know how you want to run your company. I mean, when I was at Nielsen and even my smaller publishing firm, I kind of was blended. I saw how they ran it. I saw how the big corporate, we were an entrepreneur. They bought us. They said they weren't going to change anything. Like I said, that honeymoon lasted about 18 months. And
Yeah,
then they sold a
not
couple
true.
things, and this, it was just reality. Everybody told me it was going to happen, and it did. And then 9/11, and then it was a bean counter decision, and I just went with my heart. And I said to my, I told myself, I said, like, you know what, if it doesn't work, it's okay. I know enough people. People are gonna, someone's gonna pick me up and put me on their team. And but I wasn't going to fail. I knew I was going to win. I just didn't know what level I was going to win at. And some of my clients, they were like, "Hey, David, I'm not giving you $4,000 for that ad. I used to run with you, but I'm going to give you this. But I believe in you, and you've done me right, since I've known you, and I plan on being there. And so, uh, just thinking back at all those things and all of the wins and losses and blowing my ACL out and all that, two ACLs, it all molds you who you are. And but the most important thing is, like every day, I go out and when I'm done here, I'm going to put my sneaks on. I'm going to go out on the asphalt. And last year I did my positive thought. Did it every day in the rain, whatever. I did it. 364 videos, they're in there. This year I'm doing my word of the day. And so
Now, did you get the word of the day? Are you a fan of John Gordon's?
you know what? There's so many people do the word of the day. I was trying to think, what am I going to call it? Wode, wad. I was trying to think of what I was going to. Now I just got. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's my word. Here's what I'm thinking today. I kind of go in that route.
Right.
And the other day I used leather, and I'm like, why do I use leather? Because, if you're an athlete, you got to have skin like leather. Because, if you look at some of the lacrosse players that are playing, everybody used to wear pads. Now they don't wear any pads. You know what? Because they've been whacked so many times, their skin's thick. And I know that guy, after his lacrosse career is over, and maybe he's not going to get play in the NLL or the PLL, uh, that he's going to have to go out in the business world. I know that guy's prepared because he's gotten beat on, or if you're a goalie, you understand that you're the last line of defense, and they wear very little equipment. The ball's hard; it goes 120 miles an hour. You get pelted, and the ball always hits you where you don't have padding, and so.
Invariably, right?
Exactly. So, but all of those things, I swear. So my word of the day, I'm like, look, here's the word, and everything is connected to it. And if you just work on it every day a little bit, and you do it, you will get addicted to wanting to improve. Little improvements in the whole scheme of things, it all works out. And so, uh, yeah, you know, uh,
The thing is, David, is what all you've been talking about with the fundamentals of success translate to anything you really want to do. Those things that you're saying, right? They really do. And a lot of people are like, oh, you don't know I was talking to a controls contractor today. Well, you don't really know my industry. I go, do you think the fundamentals of success are that much different in electrical, plumbing, mechanical, general construction? I like, do you think controls is that much different, right? I mean, it's not. I mean, I understand that the technology is different, sure,
mhm.
but the fundamentals of success for anybody are very similar.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If someone was out there in a commercial construction coffee talk, and they have an architect, engineer, and contracting firm, facility maintenance, whatever it might be, in our sector, and let's say they've got a sales team that's maybe they've hit a wall, or they're revamping things, or they're bringing a new product line out that they have to go promote, and they were looking for someone to come in to give them the pep talk, or to get their heads on straight, or how would someone reach out to you?
So, a couple different ways you can call our office number. It's 602-641-2032. I will give you my direct cell phone line. It's 503-575-0751. And email Brian, Brian, at nolimitperformance.biz, and our website is the same, nolimitperformance.biz. Um, Happy to talk to anybody that has an interest in 3 to 10xing their improvement, whether you're an individual or an organization. Um, that's what we do, and love doing it.
So if you're out there, commercial construction coffee talk listeners out there, and you're looking for some motivation, maybe you think you know it all. I guarantee you don't. All right, that's one thing that you got to flush down the toilet right away because I learn every day. The day I stop learning is the day I'll go do something else. And but you got to have fun. You got to keep a positive mindset, and you got to have you got to want to learn. And so if you're looking for someone give reach out to Brian, sell, email. I'll put that all in. I'll actually, when I'm editing this, I'll put that in there, but I'll put it in the description and reach out to him. And tennis player, hardwood on the on the hardwoods and b-ball, and like I said, athletes. They're great people to be mentored by because they understand winning, losing, pain, all the stuff that they had to do. I had another girl on today this morning. She was a swimmer, and I was like, yeah, we had a great swim team in my prep school, but those guys were up at 4:30 in the morning. They were doing miles and miles with the donut around them, and then at breakfast in the morning, they were they're eating all the carbs. Their tray was piled mile high. Then they
Plus
had
the
to go.
fact they're shaving all the body hair off them. It's
Yeah,
kind
they
of a
shaving
weird
the
deal,
body
you know?
hair off, and then they go through school all day, and then they got to go through practice or in the pool for a meet, and then at night, we have study hall. Those guys are sleeping at night, man, resting their body to go do it again. So, yeah, absolutely. But hey, listen, if you're out there and and you're trying to figure out how to motivate your sales team, because without sales, you're not growing, and you can't do everything yourself. You gotta bring people on. Reach out to Brian. He's the real deal as far as how I'm concerned, just from the short, interview that we're doing. Um, if there was one positive thought or phrase that you'd like to leave with our listeners as we finish up here, what would it be?
Well, I appreciate that, David. Thank you for your time. I really do appreciate you having me on your podcast. This is kind of a something that I really believe in. The goal of this human adventure is to see what all you can become with all that you've been given. We've all been blessed with amazing potential, and most of the time we don't even crack the surface of what is possible. So don't ever let anybody tell you you can't do it, just like David said, right? When he was growing up.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, can't lose. I don't have use any of that stuff in my verbiage. I used to, and but not now. I took a
Don't believe it.
sabbatical. I took a sabbatical in 2023. I'm still working on the magazine, but I took some digital classes. I went digital. I thought I knew it all. I didn't, and I learned Google, SEO, all that stuff. I built my agency, and um, but the biggest thing was mindset, and I really it really hit home about mindset. And I was in with these, mastermind groups, and these guys made millions and millions of dollars, playing on the internet way, way back before Facebook and all the stuff was in there. We're talking way back. And mindset really, really set in. And I got rid of all the people that were negative and didn't believe. And it really does work, but you have to work at it. You have to work at it every day.
Oh, and it never stops because what you did was so brilliant. Because when you tell people, I've told my kids this, right? And it's kind of funny because as your kids go older, they go, it's really weird, Dad. It seems like the older I get, the smarter you become, right? But that whole deal of the 5 people you spend the most time around have the biggest influence on your life. And if you got a bunch of people that are don't have any desire to improve their lives and they're negative, they bring you down like an anchor.
Oh yeah, they're poo-pooers. I don't have time for those people.
They just want to circle you around the toilet and go down with them. No,
Yeah.
you have to. And when you decide you're going to become something better, a lot of times you got to replace some people around you because they feel uncomfortable that all of a sudden you're trying to, do something better for yourselves.
Just remember when I showed you this picture of for everybody's out there, all right? 1980. We won the gold medal before the 1980 Olympics. We won it, I think, in 1959. I think the USA had won their first gold medal in ice hockey. But the bottom line is these were just college kids. No one gave them a chance. There was the big red Russian Soviet machine coming in, the best team in the world. No one gave them a chance, and they got it done. And uh, and if they would have
Because
had, they
they believed in
believed.
each other.
If you've never seen the movie Miracle, I'm gonna tell.
It's a beautiful story.
Oh, I mean, just unbelievable. And I'll tell you, I was up in Boston. I went up for they have this thing called the Bean Pot. It's Harvard, Northeastern, Boston College, Boston University, and it's a mini tournament. And my one of my general contracting buds, he had a suite at the Garden. Anyway, I'd never been there, so I went up, and guess who comes into the suite? Mike Eruzione.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was like I saw God come in, and he's a little guy. He's a little guy. I always knew he was a little guy, but I didn't get his autograph. I wish I would have, but I just wanted to shake his hand. And I told him the story. We went up to Lake Placid and played on the Olympic rink. He's like, "Oh wow, Northwood, that's a big time program. You guys help with them?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And anyway, it was just an amazing thing. And you look at this guy, and he's just like me. He's just a little smaller, but man, the guy beat the greatest team of all time. And they, maybe out of 10 games, if they would have played the Russians, I don't know if they would have gone 500,
Well,
five.
they would have wised him up, and they probably just were walking in thinking, "Well,
Yeah.
this is going to be a walk in the park. We're just going to
But
destroy these guys."
but some days it's just your day. Everything goes your way, and they won it. But it was an amazing thing, and so I,
That's another thing that I teach executives that, especially if they haven't played sports. If you've played sports, you know what it feels like to be in the zone. It's the greatest thing. Everything is just automatic and it just all flows, right? But somebody that really hasn't played a lot of sports, that is in the business world, they don't know what being in the zone is, and they don't realize that the most successful people in the world can put themselves in that for short periods of time and hyper focus and produce at a 500% better level. It's crazy.
yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. Well, I'm gonna take that and probably massage it a little bit. I'm gonna take your
Yeah.
goal. I'm gonna mention so. And listen, uh, copying is just another form of flattering. So, take what it is. I'm going to tweak it a little, but I'm going to take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man.
So, as we
Yeah.
finish up here, a couple things. Number one, if you're on the construction site, we want you to be safe. All right. We want you to get home, be able to have dinner with your spouse, your wife, your partner, your husband, your kids, your pets, whatever. And have a good meal, have some fun, watch some tube, get some REM sleep, and get up and do it again the next day. Number two, you got to stay liquefied. This is the athlete in me. You got to drink water, or if you Gatorade, whatever. Put the electrolytes in your bottle. There you go, and stay liquefied. Number one, if you get hydrated, you get headaches, you make the wrong pass, you just don't perform at your peak. If you stay liquefied, number one, you're gonna have a great day. Number two, you're gonna sleep better night, and you're gonna have that much better of a day the following day. So liquid, being liquefied is a must. And I don't care if it's winter or summer. You got to stay hydrated. All right. Lastly, hit the like button. So YouTube, the algorithms, they'll push it out there and they can find this episode about Brian and what he can offer you to, especially if you're in that AEC sector. So um, in any event, Brian, pleasure meeting you. Like I said, my parents are going to be up in your neck of the woods, so if I come up there, I'm going to look you up, and we'll get
Please do.
together. All right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Sounds
And
good, man. Thank you,
yeah,
David. Appreciate it.
any final thoughts before you sign off?
One of my favorite Jedi mind tricks is to ask myself questions. And this is one of my favorite questions. How can I accomplish this goal and have the most fun I've ever had doing it?
Woohoo! Yeah,
There you
baby.
go. Right?
All right, I'm
Go
gonna take
go
that
hit
one
the
to the bank
pavement and get
too.
those 5 miles in, man.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Brian signing off out in Arizona, and I'm signing off from Sugar Hill, which is right below the Beaufort Dam on Lake Lanier, about probably 25, 30 miles from downtown Atlanta. And listen, everybody, have a great weekend. You got all sorts of stuff happening this month. You got March Madness, women's, men's. You got college lacrosse going. Like tonight, DU's playing CC. We beat them already once. It's the Golden Pants up. We have it for forever. So I'll be watching the game later when I come back from my run. The men's team is playing Yale up in Connecticut, so we got to beat those Bulldogs. And the women, they just beat number 5 Michigan on the lax screen. So congratulations to the ladies out there. So go Pios! And listen, everybody, have a great weekend. Leave it all out there because Monday morning, you know what to do. You got to get up early. You got to make your bed. You got to put a smile on your face. You got to put your game face on and kick tail. All right. And then remember, at the end of the day, you look yourself in the mirror and said, I did everything I could. And you left it all out there. So, with that, we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Brian, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm so glad you got booked. All right.
Thank you,
And
David. Great
we'll
meeting
get,
you.
all right, everybody, we'll see you next time. Cheers.